it should be no surprise that many new recipes come from cities. The best cities and the best recipes mix unexpected ingredients to cook up new tastes and fresh experiences. 10 years ago, Frenchman Jérôme Audureau and American Frank Mentesana left their jobs in hotel management to start a bakery and cafe in New York's Soho Gallery district. A decade later, they and their soups, salads, muffins, and more are part of the urban foodscape. It only seems right to publish a cookbook to share their success with those who can't get to the neighborhood. Chef Jérôme Audureau talks to Canape about French casual cooking à la Soho.
I had a choice of either going to a cook school or management school. They kind of actually pushed me away of going into cooking because they knew it was a hell of a life to be in the restaurant business. So I chose the management part, but continue cooking. My girlfriend at the time had a free commercial space that was empty, so I used it for the summer and opened a small tart shop in the south of France, where I come from. After being in New York for 4 years, working for a hotel corporation, was not what I wanted. I got pretty bored. So I decided to open a business, and the tart idea came back and started doing wholesale. Started actually out of my house. Did wholesale out of my house, taking a subway every morning with carrying the box in the subway to bring the product, and save enough money to put a down payment on the store. And that's how I started. What happened is that we started with the store actually next door. Over here is a takeout shop. Next door is a cafe where the kitchen is located. It was a big challenge when we started because it was to introduce tart to the American market. Back 12 years ago, the vegetable tart didn't exist. I mean, it was like very few people who did vegetable tart. So it was a big challenge actually for us to introduce savory tart. At the beginning, people really translate that into a quiche, which is a totally different concept. I mean, the quiche is that thick and has a very heavy feeling of milk and cream. Our tart, if you can see in the showcase, for example, right now, are basically the crust and the vegetable placed on top of it. The part of the sweet tart, I mean, everyone knew sweet tart or pie, but the vegetable savory tart, no one knew them. And it worked. And now they like it. One of the things we like to deal with is to deal with fresh ingredients. We basically only use seasonal fruit or seasonal vegetable. So for example, right now we're in the month of June in New York and the peach came out. So the peach blueberry tart is back. The apricot tart is going to come back next week when the apricots are on the market. There's a lot of my favorite tart. I mean, for example, the strawberry rhubarb tart that we give, the recipe we give in the book. I like the crumble, the topping on it, which is great. The peach blueberry is also very good. As far as savory, in the wintertime, I love the leek and celery. The combination of the leek, celery, and granny mustard. I think it's a great combination. I mean, a part of a business plan before we opened was to, me and my partner, to write a cookbook. Originally, it was supposed to be a cookbook for kids, baking for kids. And after being in business for 5 years, all of our customers keep begging us to get, why don't you write a cookbook? Why don't you write a cookbook? We need a recipe. And one day, actually, one of our customers, who is an agent, asked us to write a proposal, which we did. She presented to a few publishing houses, and they actually bought it right away after 2 days. We're good at baking, but writing is not our thing, and the English is not very good for me. So we actually got a friend, a common friend from my partner and I, who is a writer, Caroline Carreño, and she offered us to help us to write the book. And that's one of the great things when people, I mean, all the people who read the book, who come back to the store, one of the things that really captured their attention is the fact that it's really a story about Frank and I, who started that business, and you can really follow that all over the book, because she keep asking us questions separately together in like very small detail, like what an apple means to you or what a leek is to you. And she was able to combine all those information, and with our help, just like making a story. And the book is actually really, I think, really translates to like a great story.
Since the early worldwide success of A Man and a Woman, audiences have looked to director Claude Lelouch for a mixture of romance, intrigue, and cinematic panache, all orchestrated to the melodies of France's best film music. The latest entry in the Lelouch Gallery is And Now, Ladies and Gentlemen, starring British romantic icon Jeremy Irons and French jazz singer Patricia Cass. He's a jewel thief, she's a down-and-out chanteuse. And the music is by the great Michel Legrand. Master storyteller Lelouch and actress Alessandra Martinez talked to Canape about filmmaking.
Le héros, Valentin, lui, est assez étonnant parce que c'est un voleur. Il y a quelques années, comme ça, il y a un dénommé Valentin, justement, qui s'est présenté à mon bureau à Paris et il tenait absolument à me rencontrer pour me faire, soi-disant, un cadeau. Alors j'ai rencontré ce monsieur qui avait un côté comme ça, très gentleman, très anglais, un petit peu comme Jeremy Irons. Et quand il est entré dans mon bureau, il m'a remis une enveloppe avec à l'intérieur 50 000 francs en billets de banque. Alors je lui ai demandé ce que c'était que cet argent. Il m'a dit non, non, c'est pour vous. Je lui ai dit mais c'est à quel sujet? On ne m'a jamais donné d'argent comme ça spontanément. Et il m'a dit non, je vais vous expliquer, il y a 10 ans, vous avez été victime d'un vol ici dans votre société, dans votre coffre-fort du rez-de-chaussée. Je dis oui, c'est exact. Et il m'a expliqué que c'est lui qui avait volé cet argent 10 ans avant et qu'aujourd'hui il venait me rembourser. Alors j'étais doublement surpris, je lui ai dit mais pourquoi j'ai jamais vu un voleur faire une chose pareille? Il me dit non mais tout simplement parce que je suis un voleur très superstitieux. Il y a 2 ans, j'ai appris que j'avais une tumeur au cerveau et que mes jours étaient comptés. Et donc au moment de me faire opérer, au moment de rentrer dans la salle d'opération, j'ai fait un vœu. Et j'ai dit, si je m'en sors, je rembourserai tous les gens que j'ai volés. Il s'en est sorti et il me dit, ben voilà, maintenant, vous savez, quand on passe un deal avec le bon Dieu, on ne peut pas tricher. Donc voilà, je suis en train de rembourser tous les gens que j'ai volés dans ma vie puisque j'ai été gracié. Et j'ai trouvé que c'était un sujet de film extraordinaire.
I don't want the statues. I had lots of statues about 40 years ago when I was a little boy. I used to steal them from you and then I'd take them across the bridge and sell them for half price. That was how I started. So now I've paid you back, plus a little bit of interest.
You don't want the statues.
What would I do with statues? Good luck.
Oh.
Moi, ce que j'aime dans un film, c'est la vie. La vie est pour moi plus importante que l'histoire que je raconte. Et donc, quand je tourne avec les comédiens, mon obsession, c'est de leur prendre, de leur voler des parfums de vérité, des moments où ils sont totalement authentiques, et d'introduire ces moments d'authenticité dans mon scénario. Donc, si vous voulez, je traite les comédiens un petit peu comme la vie nous traite. Moi, je ne connais pas la date de ma mort. Personne ne connaît la date de sa mort. Donc, aucun d'entre nous n'a lu le scénario de sa vie. Et si on avait lu le scénario de notre vie, on ne se comporterait pas comme on se comporte dans la vie. Donc, je ne donne jamais le scénario aux acteurs, justement pour qu'ils se comportent sur mon plateau comme on se comporte dans la vie. C'est-à-dire que ce sont plus des êtres humains que des héros de cinéma. Moi, les héros de cinéma, ça ne m'amuse pas tellement, parce qu'il y a une grosse tricherie. Ils ont lu le scénario et ils savent que ça se termine bien pour eux. Donc, quand je tourne avec mes acteurs, j'essaye de reconsidérer tout ça. Je ne veux surtout pas qu'ils connaissent la fin du film. Et j'aime bien que quand il y a des bonnes et des mauvaises surprises dans leur histoire à l'intérieur du film, qu'ils apprennent ces bonnes et ces mauvaises surprises en direct. C'est pour ça que très souvent, ils apprennent les moments forts, les temps forts d'un film pendant le tournage. Ce qui fait qu'ils sont très étonnés, émus. Je veux dire, quand mes acteurs à moi pleurent ou rient, ils pleurent pour de bon et ils rient pour de bon. Je ne leur ai pas demandé de rire et de pleurer.
Merci for the alibi.
I've always preferred robbers to cops, especially when they're in a bad way.
But who said I'm in a bad way? Anyway, about those jewels. Sorry, but it's not me.
You can tell that to the cops and me.
Really, it's not me. Really.
Lie for one more second and I leave this table.
All right. Maybe it's me. Maybe.
What is very exciting with him as an actress is the fact that he never gives, you know, the actors the screenplay, and so it's such an adventure. It's really actually not acting anymore. It's like living real moments of real life, because, you know, like in everyday life, you have no idea whatsoever what's going to happen to you next, and who's going to be the bitch, who's going to be the hero, you know. So it's really, it's not, you can be lazy or rest at any time, you know. You're always in such a great positive tension that gives you so much energy. So that's what I think I like the best while filming with Claude.
Is he more than a gentleman? Sera-t-il à l'heure? Valentine just out for fun, le roi des voleurs. She believes by the heavens a name in the neon light every night, and she dreams of the pleasure of fame and another chance to survive. Ça fait rien si elle ne voit jamais la faille in the black of his cheating eye. Son playback elle livre bataille. Will she be so love? It was all that she had to wear. Is he someone who really cares, or an empty bad chair?
The images that the great Impressionist painters created of the French countryside are so beautiful, so beloved, and so well known that they can block our view of their other accomplishments. The traveling exhibit, Renoir and Algeria, explores a little-known but long-standing arena of interest for the painter. Art historian Dorothy Kaczynski of the Dallas Museum of Art talks about the impact of North Africa on the French imagination and on the ever-curious Pierre-Auguste Renoir.
Most of us think of Renoir as one of the great Impressionists, and we associate him with scenes of leisure on the River Seine or street scenes in Paris. And I think that's what's exciting about this exhibition. It really offers a different point of view. And he actually had this interest in the Orient already before he made his two voyages to Algiers in 1881 and 82. So that there's a long-standing inspiration, certainly worthy of our exploration. You know, Renoir wanting to, I would suspect, wanting to escape from the protracted winters that plague Western Europe when it stays cold and rainy, sometimes as late as June. So it was really February, March when he decided to make these voyages. In 1881, he was suffering from pneumonia, so he was even more attracted to the warmth, the hot color, the beauty of the Mediterranean Sea. We find, in a sense, it's the artist tourist. People like Paul Klee and Auguste Macke and Henri Matisse making the same types of voyages, whether it was to Algeria or to Morocco or Tunis. So there's a long-standing tradition. What's interesting is, of course, what is it that they thought they were discovering there? Certainly exotic costumes, exotic architecture, Moorish architecture, again, the intensity of the light in that area, the veils, the headdresses, the babouche shoes, but also photo albums and picture postcards. So that, in a way, the photographs help to remind us of the depth of enthusiasm in the same way that we talk about, you know, Japonisme and chinoiserie. This was part of this general attraction, the lure of the exotic other. To a great extent, Renoir superimposed the his own Europeanness on this subject matter. In this room, for instance, the faces of these young women are unmistakably European. They were perhaps, as in this painting from the Clark Art Institute, our poster child, I would say, for the entire project. She's a little 10-year-old, perhaps, posed in this very artificial, it's a kind of confection in a way. It really is play acting to a great extent. Well, the exhibit actually has three distinct elements, I would say, in that we include a magnificent portrait of Madame Stora, Clementine Stora, and that was done in the 1870s. So that's prior to his visits to Algiers. He was actually Algerian-born, member of a wealthy Jewish merchant family, and she had moved to Paris, newly married, and it's a stunning portrait. And then we have not only the figurative compositions, but fascinating landscapes. There is one painting in particular that I think is just stunning and sort of almost disturbing with its sense of like a physical intensity. It's of a dancers, a kind of festival outside the walls, the ruins, Moorish ruins, and you see the Cosma behind, and then the Mediterranean in the far distance. And it's a very agitated crowd scene. It's an unusual image, and one in which you know, he wields his brush with such authority. There are also fabulous landscapes where he explores, obviously with great love and attention, the vegetation, banana plants, and he loved the botanical garden. Those paintings are worth looking very closely at because you see his sort of signature brush stroke, you know, different directions, a thick pigment or a quick brush, but light and color and the intensity of his facture. The third part of this exhibit really is devoted to his later Orientalist paintings. He, like Monet, lived a long life, well into the 20th century, and you find several examples of these robust, almost neoclassical females that we associate so much with the latter part of his career. So, you know, there are really distinct episodes, I would say, that we can explore through this exhibition.
Who says lawyers are dull? The protagonist of the intricate social comedy Confusion of Genders is a near 40 attorney whose bisexual libido rules his practice as well as his life. It's tough when you fall for a client who's a convicted murderer. It's worse when you also fall for his hairdresser girlfriend. After that, things get really complicated. The film's director, Ilan Durand-Cohen, chats with Canape about his deadpan comedy of sexual chaos.
It's about a man who desires everyone and that everyone desires, and he's totally entangled in his choices and totally paralyzed in the choice he has to do to go forward. And this character is played by Pascal Grégory. So it's a comedy about choices and how to do those choices and what's your reaction when you cannot decide. It's about doubts and how to go forward in life and deal with the people surrounding you who are pushing you to make choices.
Si tu m'enlèves pas ces affaires nullasses, je vais finir par en tuer un.
Je suis enceinte. J'ai passé tous les tests. C'est toujours positif, il n'y a rien à faire. Sans urine, il m'aurait fait un toucher rectal, je suis fertile de partout. C'est sans appel.
Vous pourriez pas arrêter de taper sur cette table? C'est pas assez compliqué, la vie? C'est moi le père?
Toi ou Karim?
Karim? Pourquoi Karim?
Quand j'ai fait l'amour avec toi, ça m'a complètement déstabilisée. Il m'a aidé à trouver mes repères.
C'est moi tes repères, pourquoi tu m'as pas appelé?
Un bon hétéro qui se pose pas de questions, quelquefois ça remet les ovaires en place.
Ah ouais, maintenant tu vois plus clair.
Well, the idea was simple. I'm very obsessed today by those kind of characters that are constantly into confusion, that cannot integrate not society, but a group within the society. They cannot integrate whether one group, another one, and so they're called in French électrons libres, free electrons. And they're condemned to always be outside. And this guy, Pascal Grégory, this guy that's being played by Pascal Grégory is trying desperately to integrate, to belong. But something in him makes him totally constantly out of society. And he has many doubts and many choices always to do, and he's totally incapable of doing choices. He's a little bit of a retarded adult or a teenager, an old teenager.
Non, je peux pas rester. Laurence, elle est enceinte, je dois l'épouser. Puis il y a cette autre femme, là, elle m'attire, je sais pas pourquoi. J'ai envie de la revoir, je comprends rien.
Tu peux tout avoir. Tant que tu leur dis que j'existe et que tu m'aimes.
Je dois choisir, je peux pas rester comme ça.
Moi, je te demande pas de choisir. T'es libre.
Tu me fais mal à la tête. Je dois partir. Bon, allez, embrasse-moi. Non, mais non, il vaut mieux pas. Tiens, voilà les clés. Mais dis-moi que tu m'en veux, dis-moi que t'es jaloux.
Tu peux tout avoir.
It's really independent in thinking, and I try not to make any compromise, and I try not to please a group of people. So it's not a politically correct movie. I like the performance of the actors, and okay, it's not perfect, but with the money I had, we did a movie that I'm traveling all the world with the movie, and I'm showing it around. I'm very happy to show it at the MoMA, at the new director's new film. And filmmaking is totally magic, because you write your little you write your film in your chambre de bonne or your little studio, pardon. You write your film in your little studio in Paris. And all of a sudden you're around the world, and I was thinking I was doing a very, very French Parisian movie, and what's magical is that it touches people around the world. So it's, human being is human being, and that's what is totally fascinating to me.
Poetry and politics are frequently strange bedfellows. The lyrical and the practical aren't always the ideal couple. Every rule, of course, breeds its exception. Martinican Aimé Césaire, who celebrates his 90th birthday in 2003, is one of those grand exceptions. He is both a major French poet and a major political voice in the history of formerly colonized and enslaved peoples. Canape takes a look at his background as explored by Oussan Palsi's documentary Aimé Césaire, A Voice for History. Bon anniversaire, monsieur.
Paris, 1931. A young scholarship holder from Martinique, Aimé Césaire enrolls at the prestigious secondary school, the Lycée Louis le Grand, to prepare for entry into the École Normale Supérieure. Upon his arrival, he meets a young Senegalese student who completely changes his vision of the world, Léopold Sédar Senghor.
Un Antillais appartient, si l'on veut, à une Afrique démembrée, lacérée, déchirée. Il y a chez les Antillais une angoisse qui n'est pas une angoisse africaine. Senghor, c'est l'Afrique en elle-même telle que l'éternité la pense. C'est l'Afrique éternelle, avec sa noblesse, avec sa dignité, avec son histoire, l'Afrique avec son humanité, sa philosophie, sa sagesse. Et je pourrais presque dire qu'en m'apportant cela, il m'apportait aussi la clé de moi-même. Senghor n'a jamais douté, il n'a jamais été déchiré.
Only Léon Gontran Damas, a student from French Guiana, a trendy young dandy is authorized to interrupt this impassioned tête-à-tête.
J'ai entendu dire que notre univers était plutôt un univers clos. C'était avant tout le lycée. C'est pourquoi nous admirions tellement Damas. Celui-là était dans le monde. Celui-là connaissait Paris. Celui-là connaissait les boîtes de nuit. Celui-là connaissait les boulevards. L'obsession nègre, et ça, l'intuition première, la douleur nègre, la joie nègre, le sarcasme nègre, le ricanement nègre, il a senti avec une force extraordinaire, et sans le dire en termes philosophiques, ce que j'appelle la déréliction nègre. Oui, orphelin de sa terre, de sa Guyane, orphelin de sa civilisation, de l'Afrique mère, et puis alors ce rythme de jazz perpétuel. Il faisait en poésie naturellement du jazz.
A wave of black American music invades Paris. Saint-Germain and Montparnasse swing to its beat. With Duke Ellington, Josephine Baker, Sidney Bechet, the whole of Paris moves to the tempo of jazz music. Dumas, the student, is a friend of Langston Hughes, Claude McKay, Alan Locke, Richard Wright, and County Cullen. It's thanks to Dumas that Aimé Césaire discovers these young founders of the Harlem Renaissance who have come to France to escape racial segregation in the United States.
These young writers of the 30s and the 20s went to Paris because they had heard of freedom to express yourself, a freedom to live over and above the restriction in the United States. It was the period when Arthur Schomburg wrote his classic essay, The Negro Digs Up His Past, showing that we were an old people, we were older than Europe, older than our oppressor, older than slavery. La rencontre avec le monde nègre américain a été pour nous un choc. Jamais on avait décrit le monde nègre de cette manière. Le monde nègre était dans les accessoires, mais l'humanité du monde nègre, eh bien, je crois que ça a été révélé pour la première fois par des gens comme Langston Hughes et Claude McKay. Nous leur devons vraiment une très grande reconnaissance. Ils nous ont aidés à nous découvrir nous-mêmes.